What's happening, everybody? Hope y'all are staying safe and not getting too lost in the groundhog's day-to-day nature of this COVID lockdown. Gets a little confusing sometimes, not gonna lie. Today's guest is drummer Jason Gerken of Shiner, formerly Molly McGuire, Season to Risk, touring drummer with Hum, and more. Jason and I got into memories of his dad and the first time he picked up the sticks, running down the stairs to play along to songs on the radio, classic rock, the appeal of John Bonham, the new Shiner record, Schadenfreude, also known as Schadenfreude, Sie Glockenspiel, Sie sprechen Sie Deutsch. That's my German impression. Apologies to my German fans out there. I got to brush up on it. So hey, maybe that's what I'm going to do with this extra time I got here. Said record is out May 8th, by the way. And as a reminder, doing these remote interviews can at times be tough with the reception network issues, so pardon the occasional breaking up on this one. And lastly, former Shiner drummer Tim Dow is next week's episode, so check that one out if you're wanting to delve further into the Shiner story. Go balls deep, as it were. While my sponsor is up and running and pressing records in New Orleans Record Press, I'd like to give a shout out to the bars, venues, and restaurants that have Kickstarter campaigns and GoFundMes, etc. out there. Please do try to donate if you're able to keep the service and entertainment industry afloat in this challenging time. And if you're a fan of some particular touring and professional musicians out there, do a little research and see if you can hook up with them for a virtual lesson of some kind. A lot of them are offering that. It's a good way to help them out. Buy some merch, buy some vinyl, buy some CDs, buy whatever it is. Help them out if you can. Crash Bang Boom Podcast can be found on SoundCloud, YouTube pages, as well as Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher, Luminary, and more. Check out my Facebook and Instagram pages for additional content and or updates. Please give me a like or a follow or a subscription or some of that good stuff if you could. The support is appreciated. So without further ado, here we go. Jason Gerken, Kansas City Drummers, what's happening? How the hell are y'all all so good? Jason and I had some drinks, talked some shit. Here we go, Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
Yeah! Jason Gerken, what is happening, man? Thanks for catching up. I've been a fan of your playing for a long time, and look very much forward to talking to you. How you holding up, man?
Doing all right, bud. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a thing. Nobody knows what's happening, and I don't think anybody has gone through this before, so we're all just kind of feeling it out together. I mean, do you grab a beer because you want to when you wake up, or do you just go through your normal routine? I don't know. It's weird.
I hear you, man. If things would be slightly different if I didn't have a 2-year-old son to look after, and now that my wife's working from home and then I'm at home as well because I don't have my job, I've become a stay-at-home dad, which is something I never thought I would be, and I'm trying to adjust to that. So I try to have my fun when he's awake and keep it to a reasonable hour. But if he was not in the mix, this might be like spring break when I was 15 years old, and I might just be rolling hard. I don't know. I'm kind of already rolling hard anyway.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciding whether I'm doing my spring break at 49 years old or whether I should try to keep my shit together and get something done. I'm mostly keeping my shit together and getting stuff done. But
have you been able to play drums at all during any of this?
I just spent the last 4 days-ish disassembling, cleaning, fixing, and reassembling my kit. I've done that in a long time. I used to do it, I don't know, once a year when I was younger, but now I don't really have time to do it, so it's probably been 15 years. I'm talking about take the lugs off and polish them with stainless, with steel wool and wax the shells, and it's like the process of trying to keep it young. But I haven't done it in 10 years or more, so I just spent like 4 days doing that. It looks pretty cool.
Right on.
And everything works again. I didn't have any place to play. I was renting a rehearsal room from a music store, up the street or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they obviously shut down. Everybody shut down. So I can't get into play. So I grabbed my stuff, and I'm practicing at the upstairs small venue above a bar that also is closed.
That's impressive that you fucking pulled that off, man.
Yeah, well, they're friends of mine, and I play in a band with one of the guys that owns the place.
Nice.
And the other guy that owns the place is the original bass player from Shiner. So I'm friends with him, and I'm like, can I use your room while you're not doing anything? And they're like, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I haven't actually played there yet since this thing's been happening, but I did use it to fix my stuff and get it ready to go.
Got you. And once again, is that the blue Vista-Lite kit that you're talking about getting all together?
Yeah, the toms are Vista, and I'm using a 94 or 5 Kansas City Drumworks snare drum that I had made for me.
Nice.
And a C&C kick drum that I had made for me when I played with Hum.
Wow.
And a Black Beauty is a second snare.
Wow.
But all the toms are I think they're 71 Vista.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Yeah, I've got a clear Vista-Lite kit. I believe it's early 70s as well, because it's got the smaller lugs on the 12-inch tom that once 75 happened, they went to the slightly larger lugs on it. So
yeah,
I know it's an early one. I don't know the exact one, but I've talked about it plenty. It's kind of a temperamental kit, but it has a great sound.
They're not round.
Right.
The toms aren't round, so they're nearly impossible to tune.
Totally. Oh my God. What?
I think it's designed to be tuned like an octave higher than everybody, an octave or two higher than everybody thinks they should be. Like, so I always end up sounding like you're hitting a pillow or a sack of potatoes or something. But if you tune them up, you can get them singing.
Right. Why a wood bass drum with that setup?
Hum wanted a louder kick drum, so I had one for me.
Gotcha.
And then they didn't like it because it was too loud.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny.
I mean, I've never heard someone say that Vista-Lite anything isn't loud enough. That's interesting.
Well, I think those guys were doing 108 dB at the board live.
Wow.
Yeah, so they weren't holding back on stage. So everything that they could get live was helpful.
Yeah.
And the 24-inch Vista-Lite kick drum wasn't cut.
Well, beyond setting up this kit and getting it all clean and ready to go, what else have you been doing to pass the time, man? Have you been listening to any particular records that feel strangely apropos for the world in which we find ourselves, or what's been going on?
No, I've been doing a little bit of deep dive, but nothing based on what we're experiencing. Kind of, I don't know. Today I listened to one of my early records, like from, I think I got it in 1975 or 76 when I was a little kid. It was Chicago's, I think it was their first greatest hits record.
Wow.
And I put that on today while I was doing dishes and cleaning up.
Nice.
Like, all the 1970s came flooding back, and I was like, holy shit. I actually had feelings. Yeah. I didn't know.
Oh my God. That's Danny Seraphin playing, I believe, on those Chicago records.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's, and it was super fun. I mean, I was a little kid when I had those records, and obviously it was one of the first things that I ever played along to. So, I get really into it, but I know all the bass parts, and I know all the horn parts, and I know all the vocals, and I can whistle every guitar solo in every song, and it's cheesy, and I love it.
Of course. I hear you, man. I'm totally obsessed with 70s rock records. That I guess I'm in the like 500 count range for my records presently, and
wow,
man, I'd say at least 2/3 of those are from like 70 to like 77.
Wow.
It's like, those are like so many of the records that I have. I just love the sound of records and drums, and the recordings, and everything just kind of came to a head.
Did that many records even get made at that point? I don't even know, man.
Fuck yeah, man. Tons of them. Oh my God.
Like, what's some obscure, like, just give me like one random obscure thing that you got in there.
Well, like, okay, so I really dig this band, Wishbone Ash, who like toured with the Allman Brothers early on, and they,
Oh, hell
yeah.
yeah.
So Wishbone Ash put out their first record in 1970, and then like the Allman Brothers put out Idlewild South in 70 as well. And so at some point, those two bands ended up touring. So I've kind of been a fan of Wishbone Ash, but they put out a record like 3 records later, I think in like 74 or something like that, called Here's the Rub. And that there are some songs off that record that I've absolutely been loving. I love like the Rainbow records with Cozy Powell playing on them from like 76 and
Yeah.
77. And then of course you have like all the Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and I mean, my God, everybody from, Leon Russell to I'm all over the map. I just keep bouncing around with all of these like 70s rock records, and like especially on the weekends, just to listen to really chill shit. I've totally been doing the whole, what I call the holy trinity of like Neil Young's Harvest, Van Morrison's Moondance, and Cat Stevens' Tea for the Tillerman record. So like I've just got all these 70s records, man. I just go crazy over this shit.
That's awesome. That all of those records take me right back to my childhood. I was born in '71, and
Yeah.
I had when I was born, I lived in a house with my grandma and my grandpa and my mom and 2 of my aunts. And my aunts were 13 and 15 years old when I was, 1, 2, 3 years old.
Right.
And they had all of those records, and that's what I was listening to until I was 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
And so all the stuff you were just talking about just brings me right back to like hanging around the house with my teenage aunts and my mom and my weird grandparents,
Wow.
who were cool.
Right.
But they were, obviously grandparents.
Yeah. Amazing, man.
Yeah, that's what I was listening to when I was a little kid.
When did you first start playing drums, man?
I think the first time I ever picked up sticks, I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
I didn't just start playing. My biological dad was a kind of a legendary guy around town, and he owned a bar that had live music, and he was also in a band. So I think he was watching me one weekend, and he took me to the bar, and were having rehearsals, and he put me on his knee, and I actually remember it. I remember doing it like it was just, I would say yesterday, but it's not quite that vivid.
Right.
So he put me on his knee, and he goes, "Here, play this." And it was, standard backbeat. And he's like, "I'll do the feet, you do this." And it was like I don't even know how to describe it, like a
Sure.
And he did the hi-hats open on the one and he did the kick on a 2 or a 1 and 3 or whatever it was.
Right.
I don't know. I can't count. Don't listen to me. I can't count. I'm just talking shit right now.
Were there any bands? You said your dad owned a venue. Were there any bands that you were seeing when you were hanging out with your dad, or any particular players that you recall seeing that were influential, or?
It didn't really work like that. My mom wouldn't really let me hang out with my dad that much because she thought he was a nefarious character. So I didn't hang out that much with him.
Wow.
That was the only time I remember hanging out with him was that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the first time I picked up sticks was the only time I remember hanging out with my dad.
Whoa.
And then, it was a while. Yeah, it was a while before I picked up sticks again. I think I might have been, 9 or 10.
Wow. How old were you when you got your first drum set, and what drum set was it?
Another oddball story. My stepdad, later on, who was a really, really great guy, he happened to be a drummer, and he had a drum kit hidden in his closet. And it was set up because he liked to play, but he's not like a drummer. He's like a Louie kind of drummer.
Mm-hmm.
2s and 4s, that's it.
Sure.
He just played for fun and a cover band in college kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But so that kit was set up in a closet in the house, and my mom didn't want me to find it, obviously, because she was not interested in me being anything like my bio dad.
Right.
And so I was home alone on a summer day. I'm sure probably got grounded for doing something obviously horrible, and that was trapped in the house, and I was exploring the house and stumbled upon this drum set and, basically just sat down and played it. And there was a radio in there. My dad used to play on the radio. I think the first song I ever listened to was Lucky Man by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And the drum set was a brown oyster white hall kit.
Hmm.
I don't remember what it sounded like, but I basically destroyed it over the next 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
Until I got my own kit.
Yeah.
I mean, I destroyed it.
You just had it set up in the house, playing along to whatever you were interested to at the time, trying to get your bearings on it.
At that point, it's 1978. The idea of being a drummer in a band didn't occur to me ever.
Wow.
Didn't occur to me until I was 15 or 16 years old. Like, there was no internet. There was no,
of course,
hey, you could do this. There was none of that existed.
Totally.
Like, there was no mobile phones. There was no computers. There was no cable TV. There was no CDs. We didn't even have cassette players yet. So
right.
like I had a children's stereo with detachable speakers and a turntable on it, and I would stack books on chairs and the little tiny detachable speakers as close as I could get to my head on top of all these stacked up books so I could actually hear while I played, because I also did not have headphones.
That's a hell of a setup. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was precarious.
Oh wow, man.
And then you'd have to, like, if you fucked up and you wanted to go like try that, if there was a drum fill that you wanted to try again,
mm-hmm.
you basically had to go stop and pick up the needle and go back to the spot on the record where that part was happening and then play it again. But that was in the basement of the house. And my bedroom was on the top floor, which was 1, 2, 3, 4 flights of stairs from the drum set.
Mm.
And if I was doing homework and heard a song on the radio, we had an awesome radio station in Kansas City in the 70s. Mm. They played everything. They would play a whole record. They played every song off a record. They were amazing.
Nice.
But if I heard a song on the radio while I was upstairs in my room or doing my homework, I would have to, between the time the song started on the radio, I would have to get down 4 flights of stairs and have the radio turned on and sticks in my hands before whatever, so I could play as much of the song as I could listen to. So that was fun.
Wow. Yeah, not quite so the internet world in which we live presently. I joke about it all the time. Just go into the music stores and hoping that the guy who was an actual drummer could tell me about which instructional video VHS tape I could get to then go home and like try to learn licks from VHS tapes and shit. And it's just like, it's hilarious. Like you could go there and it's like, even if the one you wanted, it could be sold out. You wouldn't necessarily get it. And the person that worked at the store wasn't necessarily a drummer. So then they didn't even necessarily know it. So it was kind of a crapshoot. Then you'd get it. And, they'd be pretty much just be like, well, drummers are buying this. And then you'd get it. And it was such a different world, man. The way that you would acquire knowledge and just especially just within the drumming community and everything. I mean, my God, there's no wonder that there's so many prodigal 5-year-old drummers now that just have access to all the video of the drummers in the world.
I know. I listen to it. People keep sending me, they're like, oh, check out this fucking kid who plays as good as you play. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that kid. Fuck his rich ass parents. Fuck every company that sponsors that kid. Fuck them all. I'm like, okay, I get it. I quit.
Right.
I gave up. I quit trying to fucking even compete in that world. I'm like, I'm not even trying to be good anymore. I'm just trying to fucking keep up with entertaining myself.
Oh my God, that is too funny, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I totally get it.
How many people in the world can play those notes or do that thing, or how many?
It seems like everyone.
It basically just kills the idea that, I don't really want to use the word art for drumming. I don't think it's art. I think it's just like expression and creativity, and art seems super pretentious to me. Whatever. I hit stuff, man. I mean,
yeah. It is crazy because growing up like just outside of New Orleans, I was going to see all these killer New Orleans drummers playing before there was internet, and it was kind of like you had to know somebody that would tell you about him and hope you could catch them when their set went on and everything runs late, and then you'd see him and it was amazing, and then you'd be like, I don't know how that guy did that, so I'm going to have to go see him every time he plays so I can kind of get a sense of what he's doing.
Yep.
And that was the process that you had to follow to learn from people that were inspiring to you.
Tim Dow, the original drummer for Shiner, and I used to camp out and watch this guy who played for this Bon-Ton accordion band. His name was Alonzo Powell, and he would just, Tim and I would stand on the side of the stage and watch this guy on the weekends. He would lead left and he would lead right, and he had 2 ride cymbals, and he would talk to us while he was playing, and while he was talking to us, he would switch from right lead to left lead, and then sing while he was leading the left hand, and talking, having conversations with 2 kids on the side of the stage while he's playing, and switching hands. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even, how, why?
Right.
But there wasn't, at that point, there was no internet. It was 94, 5, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts.
Wow, man.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing to think about.
Totally.
And then seeing all these kids. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's backtrack a little bit. I don't mean fuck that 10-year-old kid. I was only kidding.
Right.
But fuck that kid.
Oh, I hear you, man. Well, once you were like 15, when it sounded like when you started getting that kit, did you start playing in local bands, or what were you doing? Did you study with anyone? Were you in concert band? Did you do school band of any kind?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, there was never a band in any of the schools I went to.
Okay.
There was a guy that lived down the street named Brett Durbin, who was a really, really good guitar player. So he would come over and we would play, and we would actually play like Rush songs when I was like 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
And we weren't great at it, but you know, he could play them and I could play them, and you know, we'd play whatever was on the radio that he knew how to play. And I mean, I played every song on the radio, so I knew every song on the radio.
Right. Oh my God. So at some point it sounds like you ended up digesting a little bit of Neil Peart. Rest in peace, of course, Neil Peart.
Neil Peart was my best friend.
Wow.
I think he was a lot of kids' best friends back then, but yeah.
For sure.
I love that guy. I never met him, but I love that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, man. I think they're the generation prior to us. You're, I think, 5 years older than me. But the generation prior to us, so many of them talk about Ringo Starr as sort of the spark, so to speak, that led them to the drums. And then I think the next generation, it's incredible how vast the influence was for so many kids in listening to Neil Peart growing up, and undeniable influence there, man. My God.
What, you know, yeah, I agree. And what blows my mind currently, it just occurs to me once in a while, that John Bonham, I don't think was considered as a drum influence because there were so many other flashy guys. There was, you know, the Bill Bruford and the Ginger Baker and the Neil Peart and all of the flashy guys who did a lot of flash. Nobody even really considered John Bonham as a drum genius, except for that one solo he did on We Dick or whatever.
Yeah.
But so it wasn't like people were, all the kids of my genre, my era, I mean, were more in tune with the Tommy Lees and the more modern people. But, you know, the older we get, we're like, fuck, now John Bonham is the king because of the feel and the groove and all of that stuff. It's like, oh, so now we get it. And then, you know, obviously there's other people too, but
sure.
It occurs to me that so much other stuff gets overlooked because of Flash and what we were exposed to, which is kind of like, you know, fast forward another decade and another decade and another decade after that, and then you've got, you know, the Travis Barkers and you've got the blah blah blah, and everybody in their row gets to be the next hot shit drummer of the scene, which, I mean, that's fucking cool. That's the way it works.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, you mentioned John Bonham, so I guess I'll just jump to that for a second. It's one of the things that has struck me about your playing, as well as Tim Dow and up to Chris Metcalf with Life and Times. I actually asked Chris when I spoke to him. I was saying, there's a sonic connection where all of you play like vintage gear and have this sort seemingly kind of Bonham influence, and I was never quite sure as to if you all acknowledged that there was John Bonham the ultimate influence? Was there a local guy? Was it classic rock radio, or is it just working with Allen Epley and that's his influence on y'all? Because there is a through line there that both in sound, and I think you have your own individual things for sure. But I would say Bonham is a connecting thread through all of those. I mean, would you say so?
Yeah. Well, Bonham kind of bridges the gap with he's got kind of a swing that is reminiscent of like a jazz feel. And the Kansas City jazz thing is a real thing. I mean, it's just all over the place here. We can't get away from it. So if there's an immediate connection for us with anybody who's got swing. Mm-hmm. And John Bonham just has that feel. It's just a real natural thing for us to gravitate towards that guy. So I would say, yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. But as far as we all probably start there because it's easily identifiable to us. Mm-hmm. We get it. And then we go with our other influences after that. Like I end up going for the prog rock side of it, mm-hmm. which is also kind of jazzy. Sure. I love the prog, and I think Tim loved the metal and the new wave. So you can see that in his angular specificity.
Totally.
And Metcalf was really into U2.
Right.
Like really, really into U2. So you can kind of hear that in the patterns and repetition and the dynamic flow that he does. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Sure. I just think it's also interesting, like on the records that y'all have played between Shiner and Life and Times, and of course, once again, Allen Epley's the through line there. But I think those records have great live sound and drums, where those are undeniably like real drums and tonal and the whole thing. So I think that is something that John Bonham also had just about more than anybody on a record. I mean, my God.
For sure, absolutely. I think at least I can speak for the three of us that we are really into the drummers who sound like their kits are one instrument,
right? Instead
of a collection of different instruments. Mm-hmm. Even though my kit is a Frankenstein kit for mm-hmm. sure, and so is Metcalf's. I think that we want them to sound like its own beast, but like a quirky beast.
Sure. Of course, man. That's
a quirky beast.
The quirky beast. I like it, man. I'm into this. Well, in working, I guess with Allen, what is his? I mean, has he produced some of those Shiner records, like particular like the Egg and Starless and ones that you were on? Is he producing those records as well?
The word produce. And producer, the title producer is
right.
It's kind of a gray area to me. It's like people call those producers, but basically they're just coaches.
Yeah.
And then there's people who write and people who are like writing coaches, and people who are performance coaches.
Right.
It's like I've worked with a couple of people who call themselves producers that actually go in and help you structure and shape a song. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with people who just say, "Hey, I think you guys are in the right direction. I hear what you're doing. I think you could do it one more time better." And mm-hmm. I'm like, "What the fuck does that mean?" So, can you want me to just get lucky? How many times are you going to make me do this before I get lucky and get what you want? Forget it.
Right. Totally.
If you don't tell me what you want, you're shooting in the dark. So. Right. Tell me what you want. I'll see if I can do it.
Yeah.
But as far as like Al producing, I would say that, he has a certain producer role that he plays. It's mostly in the language in which he uses when he talks to us about our performances and our parts. Mm-hmm. Like he wants to get the best version of the thing that we have in our head for the parts that have been written.
Mm-hmm.
And, he'll coach us into getting that from ourselves. Sometimes he tells us what to do and says, give me a version of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll sit down on the drums and play it for me.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I got that.
Right on.
Like the drum beat on that song, The Egg.
Mm-hmm.
That whole part is basically him going, how about something like this? And he sits down behind the kit and he goes, boo, buckum, 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 buckum,
Right.
He wasn't a very good drummer back then.
Right. That's hilarious.
He's much better now.
Wow.
So I would just sit down and do a drummer's translation of whatever. He goes, yeah, that's great. I love it. And we'd do that.
Right. I think it's funny that you said The Egg, because that was one of the songs that I had in my mind as being kind of a quintessential Shiner drumming song, as well as like Spinning off of Starless. And then, I think everything going back to Tim with Lula Davinia and like the Situationists and Third Gear Scratch with the shuffle and everything. And
I'm not going to toot my horn where it shouldn't be tooted. Tim wrote a bunch of those drum parts on that Starless record, and I just did a version that was right for the band at the time, the way the song was evolving at the time when we recorded them and we were playing them. They weren't exactly what he wrote, but they were basically the ideas that he had on demos.
Wow.
And some of them I was like, I'm not rewriting the drums on these songs. The drum parts are good. It's just a little tweaking to make it flow better. And that's what I would do.
Right.
But a lot of it, I was just like, no, I'm leaving this the same. I'm not fucking touching it. It's great.
Wow.
He was the drummer in that band when a lot of those songs are written. So.
Right. Oh, that's wild, man. Was it challenging learning some of his parts when you got into Shiner and kind of getting into his headspace?
Fucking seriously? Unbelievable. That fucking guy.
Oh.
Seriously, I still don't play most of them right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would have to transform my body and the way I listen to music almost 90 degrees to get my body to do the things that were happening when he played some of those songs. He's an angular machine. He's specific to a point of perfection that I couldn't do.
Right.
That's why he was always one of my favorite drummers, just because I can't fucking play like that. And so I just can't. We talked about it. I'm like, I can't do it the way you do it. He's like, I'm not bummed out.
Oh my God, man.
We did a tour not that long ago when Tim came out with us and he played half the set and I played the other half the set, and we decided to do his songs that he played on the records, and I would play the songs that I played. And I was like, that fucking sucks, man. I spent the last goddamn 15 years playing your songs. Why can't you learn some of mine? I'm like, I want to hear you play Kevin or some other shit. And he's like, man, I can't. I'm like, how about Giants shit? No, I can't do it. I was like, fuck, man. You can do this. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, seriously.
Oh, that is too funny, man.
Dude, he's awesome. The Thalia Hall showing around.
Yeah.
It's all that show is one of the most fucking fun shows I've ever played.
Nice.
I love that show. I love every show where he got to play. One of my favorite shows I've ever played. Just sit down and watch this guy.
Yeah. Who's
like one of your best friends and your favorite drummers playing half of your set for you. I'm like, this is fucking great. Let's do it again.
Shiner's a funny one because I admittedly didn't know about Shiner. I missed Shiner when it was happening in the late 90s into the early 2000s. And I don't think I heard Shiner until maybe 2007 or something like that. One of my buddies was just like, man, you know Shiner, right? I was like, no.
No shit.
And he played him for me. And I couldn't believe that I somehow missed that band. So I guess the question there is, like, when you joined, was it always kind of a small scene? What was it like, I guess?
Oh yeah. It was tiny. Yeah, it was tiny. It was weird and awkward. I mean, there was inter-scene band jealousy and competition and all that shit. And we used to play shows together all the time. It was Season Risk, Shiner, and Molly McGuire, and we would go on tour and play Kansas City shows together. And they were always like a social gathering for everybody to show up.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot to do back then.
Right.
You know, every time Shiner would play, I would go see them, and every time Molly McGuire would play, Tim would come see me. So it was like Molly McGuire had signed a deal with Epic and put out a record, and we didn't sell enough copies for them, so they dumped us. And then we started another band called Gunfighter that we really enjoyed, but one of them really square in the head. I think there was probably some meth going on or something. It wasn't like bottom of the barrel, but I wasn't my best me.
Right.
And Tim decided one day, he's like, fuck, I'm going to go live in LA and try and do something else. I'm not going to play for Shiner anymore. Don't get me wrong. This was a very, very weird time for music. It was 1997.
Right.
And music was changing and technology was changing, and record labels were not what they had been in the previous years, and nobody knew what was happening, and YouTube wasn't a thing, and Spotify wasn't a thing yet, and the only thing you could do was Napster, and basically everybody was just earning records for everybody.
Right.
Like, this was the beginning of all of that, right?
Yep.
So nobody was paying for anything, and tickets to shows were still $10, and T-shirts were still $12, and so you couldn't really make any money on tour, and nobody was signing anybody. So it's like nobody wanted to be in a band that from Kansas City that had to go work for it.
Right.
So it was pulling your hair out being in a band in Kansas City, and Tim was like, "I'm going to go to LA and just sing with Ken." Well, ultimately he went to Trial for Failure, turned him down, stayed with Shine Up, then decided I'm going to go out there and move to LA and hopefully pick up some connections and do all that stuff. And it worked out for him for a while.
Yeah.
But Paul from Shiner says, you know, Gunfighter's not doing a whole lot right now. You want to come play some shows with us and record this record? And that's what I did. And the guys in Gunfighter got really mad at me and replaced me with the previous drummer from Season to Risk.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So I no longer had a job playing drums for Gunfighter. So I just started playing drums for Shiner.
Wow.
And Allen and Paul are motivated, and they wanted to put out more records, and they did not want the band to die, and they put out a record with Owned and Operated, and we started going on tour, and I mean, there's a lot of details that go along in there, but so now I'm in Shiner, and that's how it worked.
Holy moly.
It was weird. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of it because I was, meh.
Wow.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's insane. Well, in talking about Season to Risk, I think that there's an interesting, undeniable connection there with Shiner, with, various members that previously from Season to Risk who presently play in Shiner. I mean, you played with them for a second, as did Tim Dow. I believe Chris Metcalf, even from Life and Times, played with them. So, I mean, what kind of influence, I guess, did Season the Risk have on the scene, assuming there was even a scene within Kansas City, be it how small it was? I mean, it's kind of one of those things where with that style of music, I always kind of hear the scratch acid, rape man, sort of Jesus Lizard influence. So I guess I'm just curious sort of what influence Season to Risk had on the local scene, and maybe what influences you felt that band also embraced that might have been from elsewhere or even within Kansas City. I don't even know.
Oh, dude, I cannot Reader's Digest for you. I can't shorten it. I cannot condense the story of that band. I can tell you that they were extremely influential in the music scene in Kansas City. They were one of the first bands that was happening in KC one of the only bands that was happening in Kansas City in the late 80s, early 90s that was motivated, inspiring, that was willing to tour for nothing, that would just continue throughout hardships, and they were super inspirational in their creativity and drive and work ethic and motivation. They just really wanted to do that, all of them, and everyone that was ever in that band. And there's a ton of them, like tons and tons of members in that band.
Right.
You should set up an interview with every drummer that played for Season to Risk that's still alive.
Right.
And that would be a fun interview.
Okay.
There's been like 9 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's been some really good ones too.
Amazing.
Anyway, so everybody that's been in that band has been on the same page. They all wanted to do that. That's what they wanted to do, and they did. And it was, I don't know, they've always been a band that was just fucking brutal live, and everybody that was ever in the band has been like the sweetest guy ever. So
yeah,
I don't know. I love that band. They're great. And it doesn't even matter if you don't like them. If you see them and meet them and hang out and go see them live, you're like, these guys are fucking badass.
Right. Well, it's one of those things that I love asking bands, especially when they're sort of traveling within these small scenes and whatnot. You end up playing like some really absurd shows. So I'm wondering whether it was with Season to Risk or Molly McGuire or Shiner or any of the bands in between, if there's any particular show that you remember playing where you were like, what the fuck is going on? And I mean, that could be the crowd, that could be the venue, that could be the traveling to get there, or equipment malfunctions. I mean, that also happens.
I remember a few really good ones, and they've been with, I mean, this band or that band, but the good ones are always basically the same. There's always so many people that you can't really take it in, but so you just try to enjoy your thing and do your job, have a really good time, and give the people that are there their money's worth and have a good time and try not to fuck up too much.
Right.
The ones I always end up remembering, like the detailed memories of a show, are the ones where there's nobody there.
Right.
Those are the ones I remember. You know, we drove from Salt Lake City to Denver, which is a 9-hour drive, to play the 1 a.m. slot to about 9 people. And then we had to get out of that show and drive all the way to Madison, Wisconsin to play for some outdoor college party, and they were paying us like $4,000 to play the show for, I don't know why they were paying us that much. Somebody liked us.
Yeah.
I pulled one over on the coordinator, whatever. Anyway, so we get there. It's like 40 degrees outside. We play for like 20 minutes. They pay us $4,000 or whatever it was. And we're like, okay, so we're done. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon. Let's drive home. So we drove home to Kansas City.
Yeah.
From Madison, Wisconsin. Like basically play a show, drive to Denver, play a show, drive to Madison, play a show, drive home, and like no stopping. And nobody was at any of the shows.
Oh my God.
Okay. You know?
Right. Oh, that is fucking too much, man. Wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those that I remember, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know. I black out all the negative shit. The rest of the band remembers all the negative shit that I do, but I don't. I black it out. I can't. I don't want to remember any of that shit.
I hear you. Oh my God. I was just going to ask you about recording with Vista-Lite kits and what your experience has been with them, and if you're especially kind of proud with some of your drum tones from recording with Vista-Lite kits, because I've actually had not the best experiences with them. So would you have any take on that?
I defer all technical stuff to whoever is putting the mics on.
Yeah.
And twisting knobs and running faders and all that stuff. I really don't know any of that stuff.
I hear you.
I mean, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
We're making recordings. It's not my place. I stay the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And whoever's done it so far has always done a really good job.
Right on.
I have asked them a couple times what the deal is. I'm like, is it me or is it you?
Right.
And they're like, I do as much as I can, but you hit them right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Is there that big of a difference? He's like, Paul specifically a couple of weeks ago was like, yeah, you hit your drums differently than other people hit them. And I'm like, I wouldn't know how else to do it. I wonder what other people do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've never given a lesson, or I've never given or taken a lesson, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I've played with some other people who I personally can't get wooden drums to sound good.
Right.
I
Interesting.
don't know how to do those.
It's really interesting.
Maybe it's just because I tune really ringy and I hit harder than I probably should.
Right.
That way I hit them so hard they just choke themselves. I don't know. I don't claim to be a knowledgeable drummer. I just hit stuff.
Right on, man.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do.
I hear you. I guess going forward, Shiner's got a new record coming out. I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
God.
I know.
I hope it comes out.
It'll be coming out. I know. I think it'll be coming out. I think the question then becomes were y'all planning on doing some touring for that, and if so, I guess that's also to be determined.
Yeah. Shit was booked already.
Ah.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I know. We were booked. It was going to be a thing for us. We were going to have a really good time. It was going to be our first real tour in a long time. Usually we'll go out and we'll play 3 shows or 4 shows, and this was going to be 2 weeks at a time, east and west.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had to shut it down.
Damn it, dude. Well, I certainly hope it resumes. Yeah. The last time I saw y'all, you came through New York and played St. Vitus, and I was there for that and absolutely loved the show. I thought you sounded fucking great. The band sounded great. So I definitely hope and look forward to y'all getting back out there and hopefully following through with everything y'all have worked for thus far.
Was that the one where we played 2 shows?
Yes.
Which one did you go to?
I think I saw the Starless one. I don't know that I went to the Egg one. I think I went to the Starless one, if I recall correctly. Okay,
so that was the one after that. I think that was okay.
Yeah.
I think we played okay that night. I was like, the first. No, yeah. Wait. Was that where we played 2 shows? Fuck, I don't remember.
Yeah.
When's that record gonna come out, man?
I don't know.
Those fucking guys. I'm gonna take them and put them over my knee. What's that record? You goddamn sons of bitches. Jesus Christ. I can't wait to hear that thing. That's gonna be so cool.
You recorded a record with Hum?
No. They've got one coming out.
Oh, Hum? Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. I thought for a second you were saying that maybe you had recorded with them on it as well, which I wasn't aware of. But okay, got you.
No, I'm just waiting for the one they've got in the can to come out. I'm excited. I've heard little snippets, but nothing recently. Like maybe a couple of years ago, I heard some snippets of some stuff that was going to be on it, but it wasn't finished. Put it out. I want to hear it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you sounded great with Hum as well when you played Vitus, right? I was at that show. Jesus.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That was sweaty. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
It was like 106 degrees, 170 degrees in that place that night.
I bet, dude. Woo!
Those guys are so fun to play with. I missed it. I think it might have just been the situation or the scenario that we were all in at the time, but goddamn, those guys, they don't seem to care about anything on stage. I would just accidental train wreck songs, and they're like, "No big deal, dude. It's cool." But nobody would ever know. They were like, "Fuck, just pick it up and trek right through it, man."
Right.
They were so fun.
Amazing, man.
Not like Shiner isn't, but I miss playing with those guys.
Right. Oh man. Well, shit, I look forward to the new record, Jason. Try not to drink all the booze in the house. I'll try to do the same.
Yeah, right.
I look forward to one of your bands or projects coming through New York soon, and we'll get a real life drink and in person, and I'll even give you a hug, buddy.
I would enjoy that. I'm into it.
Right on, man. Good talking to you, Jason.
Thanks for calling me, man.
Yeah, dude. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks, Jason, for catching up. Check in next week for the Tim Dow episode, formerly of Shiner. It's going to be some good shit. Crash, bang, boom.